Have you ever thought about the Master Sword and went, if your answer is yes, then you are like me. All jokes aside, the Master Sword is one of the most frustrating topics to talk about. This is mainly because Nintendo can't seem to pick on a backstory for it. The original backstory was it was created by the Hylians, and then it changed to being created by the Sages, to then being created by Hylia and then tempered by Link. And to make things more confusing, Nintendo was just like, hey, how about we put a living person inside the Master Sword? See why that screaming was a little bit justified? Its powers also seem really strange, like how come the Master Sword can resist the literal Triforce of power, but yet for some reason cannot put an end to Demise's curse? It's just really inconsistent and really confusing. But I'm here to talk about Breath of the Wild's Master Sword. Now, I couldn't really figure out what it was that was so weird about Breath of the Wild's Master Sword. So I started looking at other YouTubers' videos on the subject to see if I could find some answers, and while I was watching some of the footage, something stood out to me.
Link, save yourself. Go. I'll be fine. Don't worry about me. Run. Was that the power? Huh? No. Link, get up. You're going to be just fine. The sword. So he can still be saved?
Princess! Princess, are you all right?
Take Link to the Shrine of Resurrection. If you don't get him there immediately, we are going to lose him forever. Is that clear? So make haste and go. His life is now in your hands.
Did you notice what was so weird about this cutscene? The Master Sword isn't glowing. For those of you who've played Breath of the Wild, you probably know that the Master Sword glows whenever it's around Malice. And yet, for some reason, here's the Master Sword, and there's literal malice in the air, and yet it's just sitting there, rusting away. In fact, the only part in this cutscene where it glows is when Link is literally dying. And it's not just this cutscene, too. All the other memories, the Master Sword isn't glowing. There's one thing I would like to point out about this cutscene. The sound the Master Sword makes when Link is dying, which is the same soundbite from cutscenes from Skyward Sword like this one. This has led many people to believe that this is the voice of Fi. This is also backed up by Zelda when she's traveling to Goron City, where she questions Link's proficiency in wielding the Master Sword and mentions a voice inside the sword, something that she can later come to hear, and Link can also come to hear. The only thing that's really contradicting this is that in Skyward Sword, Fi tells Link that she is going to go into an eternal sleep. But she also tells Link that their time together is one of her most treasured records on data, and she also says the words, "May we meet again in another life," which implies a future meeting. This is important because she and Link were friends. In Breath of the Wild, Zelda mentions that the spirit inside the sword will forever be bound to the soul of the hero. I believe that while Link was on the verge of death, Fi awoke. Her friend was dying, and she knew the one way he could be saved, so she instructed Zelda of the Shrine of Resurrection. Why? Because Link hadn't fulfilled his purpose and saved Hyrule. If he were to die, all hope would be lost. And yes, I know that the Master Sword does glow in Age of Calamity, but keep in mind that it doesn't start glowing until, Zelda almost dies, which is probably Fi responding to Zelda because Hylia was Fi's creator, so obviously Fi would have some connection to Zelda. And if Fi is awake, then perhaps we'll see her in Breath of the Wild too. Who knows? And that's my theory on when Fi awakes in Breath of the Wild 2. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really enjoyed making it. What do you guys think? Am I onto something or am I insane? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. I'm Mass Penguin, and I'll see you guys later.